Hey folks, today's Fun and Games we're going to talk about the Battle of Caudine Forks. It's called Caudine Forks because it's in Caudia, which is a region in southern Italy, and there's a river that forks in two places in this valley between the mountains. So they call it a battle even though really it was a tactical maneuver. It really wasn't a battle. It took place in 321 BC between the Romans, here represented in red, and the Samnites represented in blue. This was the second Samnite War. The Romans provoked the war, and the Samnites really didn't want this war. But when they decided to fight the Romans, what they did was they sent about 10 soldiers that were disguised as shepherds. And they all had the same story. So when the Romans came upon these seemingly local shepherds, they all told the same story, which was that the main Samnite force had gone through this valley and was besieging the town of Lucera, which was a Roman ally. And Lucera was on the coast over here, pretty far away. So this happened about 10 times because the Romans picked up 10 stragglers who told them this, or 10 shepherds, and they all had the same intelligence. So after hearing the same story 10 times, the Romans were convinced that this was true. So they decided to make haste and help their ally and also defeat the Samnite army, because then they would have the combined forces of Lucera and Rome to fight the battle. Well, there were two ways that the Romans could have gone to Lucera. They could have gone the long way, which was around an open coastal road, but it was much further than the direct route. And the direct route was through this valley. These are representing mountains here, and this is the river, through this valley of Caudine Forks. And it was a much more direct route, much faster, however not as safe. But the Romans weren't thinking about that. They were thinking about making haste to help their allies. So they entered the pass, and they found when they got through the pass to the end, see, there were two choke points this pass. They found that this part was blocked by fallen timbers and stones that the Samnites had constructed there. And they also saw that there were Samnite soldiers on the hills ready to rain down spears, arrows, rocks, slingshot, whatever, down upon them. The Romans, realizing their mistake, made haste for the entrance of the valley that they had come through, but somebody said 3.5 miles away, if you believe the local topography. And they found that that was blocked by the main Samnite force now. So they were unable to, and there were also barricades set up, so they were unable to escape that way. So the Romans found themselves basically surrounded with Samnite soldiers on the hills, and they did not know what to do. So after a little bit of delay, they started to fortify their camp, even though that was just busy work, because they realized that all the Samnites really had to do was wait them out until their supplies ran out, because this narrow valley wasn't going to have enough forage for them. So once their supplies ran out in a few days, they were basically going to starve to death. So the Samnite commander, whose name was Pontius, was very pleased with himself. This was seemingly a complete victory, a very wonderful and amazing position for him to be in. He had trapped the entire Roman army, but he wasn't quite sure how to exploit his victory. And in fact, he calls a council of a war council, and they're basically nobody really knows exactly how they could best exploit this victory. So what they decide to do is they decide to send a messenger to talk to Pontius' father, who is an old wise man named Herennius. And so they send a messenger out to go to Herennius. He comes back with a letter, and the letter, the Pontius asks his father, "What should we do?" And the letter comes back from Herennius, and Herennius says, "Let all of the Romans go immediately, unscathed. Just open up the valley entrance and let them all go." Well, Pontius is confused by this. he says, well, we've got victory in our grasp. Why would we let them go? This doesn't make any sense. And there's no explanation in the letter. He says, send back to my father and ask him again what we should do. So the messenger goes and comes back. And Herennius' letter this time says, you should kill all of the Romans to a man. Leave no one standing. So now the Council of War and Pontius are very confused. They don't understand these two conflicting reports. So they say, look, why don't you go and bring Herennius here, and let's see if he's of sound mind, first of all, and if he is, he can explain himself. So he goes, and they bring back Herennius. They come back to the camp, and they see that Herennius is not senile, and he's of sound mind. And they ask Herennius to explain himself. And Herennius says, well, the first most desirable option is to let all of the Romans go. Because in that case, you have shown your goodwill, and there's a possibility that you will be able to make a lasting peace with the Romans, who will be grateful that you spared their soldiers, will not forget that. And you can sign a treaty of alliance with a very powerful neighbor, and we will have peace. And Pontius says, okay, well, that's interesting, but these Romans are really mean to us. Why would we want to do that? The second option, Herennius says, is the second most desirable, which is that you kill all the Romans. You take away their power to hurt our tribe, the Samnites, for several generations. However, you leave a lasting feeling among the Romans for revenge. So eventually, a few generations from now, they will come back and they will not forget and they will attack us. But for now, we will have peace, and we'll have peace for a long time. Well, Pontius thinks about that, but that's pretty brutal as well. So he says, well, is there no middle road? And Herennius says, no, those are the only two options. Well, Pontius says, well, what if we humiliate them? What if we disarm them and we make them march back to Rome in defeat, and telling everyone of the great victory and how smart we are and how clever we are and how we out-clever them? And Herennius just shakes his head and says, no, that's the absolute worst thing you can do, because now they will be angry and you still will not have diminished their power to fight. Somehow, some way, no matter what treaty you make these Romans sign, they will find a way out of it, and eventually they will come back and attack you. Mark my words. Well, Pontius decides to do exactly what Pontius wants to do, and that is to disarm the Romans, and some say strip them naked, although Livius says they each get one garment. So basically he takes almost all their possessions except for their clothes, and makes them march one by one out of the valley and under the yoke. Now, under the yoke is an interesting expression, and nobody's really quite sure what that means. Is it a yoke like a yoke for oxen, or is it a symbolic yoke as like an arch made of spears that the Romans had to, Samnite spears that the Romans had to walk under with their heads bowed, symbolic of the fact that at any time the Samnites could strike them down on their naked necks and kill them. Whatever it was at the time considered to be an extremely humiliating procedure, and the Romans are forced to walk under the yoke and out of the valley and go back to the Senate in disgrace. Well, just like Herennius predicted, the Roman Senate decides to, even though they have to honor the treaty for now, they do find a loophole, and basically I can explain that in another video. But the lesson to be learned here is that the Romans do eventually attack the Samnites again, resume the war, and win a peace in their favor, even though there was a chance for this to be a great Samnite victory. Livius is trying to teach us a lesson here. There's one road that leads to peace through being gracious and honorable. There's another road that leads to victory by being cruel and brutal. The middle road leads to no desirable conclusion for your side. So that's what Livius is trying to tell us. Livius writes often, he's writing a so-called history, but he's not necessarily writing for historical accuracy. He's often writing to teach a lesson. And that's the lesson, I believe, that he was trying to teach with the Caudine Forks. And the funny part of it is that, well, not the funny part, but the interesting part is it is a river that forks in two directions, so the symbolism here is of the two directions and not the middle road is pretty clear, I think, as well. So no coincidence there on Livy's part, I think. Of course, how do you apply this in real life? That's up to you. This is a military situation, and often in military situations, people will say, yes, you do not want to take a middle road. You do not want a peace where the enemy can resuscitate themselves. Versailles being an example that's given often in 1919. Certainly, if you're using any of this advice for strategic or tactical computer games, absolutely use that lesson that way. Now, in everyday life, the middle course is usually the best way. Usually, that's how the world works. You don't get everything you want. You don't get to defeat your opponent completely. You get something, they get something. That's called compromise. That's the way our society is built, or has been until recently. And that's everyday life. But that's the lesson that is in Livy, in Book 9. So if you ever want to read it yourself, that's where it is. And if you want me to elaborate on any of this, please put it in the comments below. If you like this video, please give it a like. If you don't, give it a dislike. If you subscribe, you help my channel. And if you put something in the comments below telling me you want to see more of this, I can do more of these. And you can even give me suggestions as to what you'd like the next video to be. So make it a great day, and don't go marching down any mountain defiles or valleys if you know the enemy is in proximity, at least not without doing proper reconnaissance. So with that, I say, make it a great day.